So we've been talking about the IRS final regulations for the Roth mandate. In that final reg, they discuss or mention the deemed election. What is a deemed election?
Well,
Okay.
the good thing about the mention in the final regs is actually we had heard about it already from the proposed regulations back in the spring. So we had a little bit of exposure to the deemed election. And what the deemed election is a plan provision that allows the employer to treat an age-based catch-up contribution election as an election to contribute on a Roth basis for those employees who are higher earners. And that happens whether the contribution is made as a spillover contribution or there's a special election to do contribution.
Okay, so you just brought up something that we haven't discussed at all in Secure 2.0, and it's a specific type of contribution. What is a spillover for age-based catch-up contributions?
Well, before I describe what it is, I'll explain that the reason I brought it up is because the final regulations talk about how you apply a deemed election. They do refer to spillovers and separate elections.
Okay.
But a spillover is when the participant doesn't make a separate election to do age-based catch-ups. They just say, I'm going to contribute 10% every payroll and just keep contributing that. And then once the regular deferral limit is reached, then everything after that is then treated as an age-based catch-up contribution.
Okay, so a separate election, then the other type of contribution would be when a participant makes an election for their regular deferral limit contribution and then also makes a separate election for their age-based catch-up contribution?
That's correct.
Okay.
And that can happen at the same time. So you could do that in January. You could say, I'm going to contribute 10%, but 7% is going to be for the regular deferral, and then 3% is going to be age-based catch-ups.
Okay, so it sounds like it's important for the plan to know the difference between a spillover and a separate election?
Yes.
Okay.
Because in the deemed election context, the plan sponsor can immediately, with the separate election, treat that age-based catch-up contribution as Roth. Like, it's deemed Roth when you have a high earner.
Okay. That's a lot. What else do we need to know about a deemed election?
The final regulations give us flexibility on when the employer can actually implement the deemed election. They can, when there's a separate election, they can wait until just the pre-tax portion gets to the catch-up contribution limit, or they can combine the two and say, when the total contribution, whether it's age-based or the regular deferral limit, when that reaches the regular deferral limit, everything after that is Roth.
Okay, so it sounds like there's a lot of work here for the plans. Is there anything that a participant would need to do related to a deemed election?
The final regulations don't specify anything for the participant to do, but they do say that plan sponsors need to give participants the opportunity to opt out of the deemed election. So essentially, in the situation where the participant's giving 7% regular and 3% age-based catch-ups, the participant might say, okay, I'm not going to do age-based catch-ups anymore. Stop that 3% because you're going to make it Roth.
Got it. So in addition to opting out as a field, there are obviously many other fields that plans are going to need to consider and track here.
Yes.
So it sounds like somebody might need to check on whether their system allows for this feature to have the deemed election or if the payroll provider does.
That's correct.
Okay.
So while MissionSquare can help plan sponsors and understand the provisions, unfortunately, the mechanisms of administering the Roth mandate and the deemed elections is going to fall on the plan sponsor and its payroll.
Okay, so thankfully the IRS final reg came out. This provision on the Roth mandate is live on January 1, 2026 for all plans.
Yes.
But at least there's a year to sort of implement the rule in the final reg itself, so there's time to adapt to the
Yes, there's time to work out the kinks.
Okay, so more to come.
More to come.